Did you know that Florida contains more than 30,000 lakes that cover more than 3 million acres of land? Our lakes are precious resources and critical parts of our ecosystem that need monitoring and care. Agent J.K. Yarborough is here to tell us how each of us has an opportunity to get involved. J.K., thanks for being here.
Happy to be here.
You're here to talk about the Florida LakeWatch program, and for those who aren't familiar, what is it?
Florida LakeWatch started in 1986 as a program to kind of monitor the lakes that are throughout the state of Florida, but to do so with citizen volunteers or citizen scientists, because we couldn't employ enough people to be actually test, like you said, the thousands of lakes that we have in Florida. We trained volunteers to sample the water for us, and we get that data and we keep it long-term and monitor that information of that lake.
So what are we testing or monitoring lakes for? What are you looking for?
Well, with the Florida LakeWatch program, we test for nitrogen and phosphorus levels in the water. We test for chlorophyll or algae concentration in the lake, and then we test for the water depth of the lake.
Now, are all of those indicative of the health of the lake?
These are all factors that play into the health of the lake, yes.
Okay. So if someone wants to get involved, what would they do?
They can contact the Florida LakeWatch office, and they'll send that information to the regional coordinator for that area. And then they will talk back and forth, see what lake do you want to monitor, see if it's already being monitored, make sure you have all the necessary requirements. And then once all that gets cleared out, we will send somebody to help train you on how to take the sample correctly, so that way it's not contaminated and doesn't send us bad data.
Well, I know you brought some of the tools with you that your volunteers might use. Explain to us what's involved.
So whenever we go out on a lake, I mentioned what we're collecting. So we have our tools here. We have 3 locations in a lake usually where we're going to take our samples from, so that way we're consistent with where we're taking that water from. Well, first we'll take water in one of our little bottles that we have here, and this is what we're going to collect and test for our nitrogen and phosphorus. Okay. Whenever we go to collect this, we actually have trace amounts of nitrogen and phosphorus in our skin that's on our hands. So whenever we go to collect this water, we have to be careful not to let our skin get into the...
Not to contaminate.
Contaminate, exactly.
Okay.
So whenever we go to collect this bottle, we actually push it straight down, and then we let it fill up slowly, all the while pushing it, so that way our skin cells not being suctioned into the bottle, because we're constantly pushing and getting newer water into that bottle.
And I'm assuming this is part of the training that you will provide a volunteer before they, okay.
Exactly.
So they know how to do all this. All right.
Once we have that collected, we can collect our chlorophyll sample, which we'll collect in this jug here. It's not as sensitive and like our nitrogen and phosphorus sample. So we just uncap it and we'll fill it up. And then we'll take this back on land where we'll filter it to collect our chlorophyll concentration.
Okay, and this is the filter through which we do that?
Exactly.
Okay.
So we have a vacuum flask here, and we have a vacuum pump that you attach with the tube, and you just hook it up and you pump it, and it creates a vacuum inside the flask, which then will draw the water down. So whenever we are dealing with the chlorophyll sample, we have to take a exact amount, which usually we do, I teach with 300 to 250 milliliters.
Okay.
An exact amount, put it in there, and then we'll filter that through our filter, which is a piece of fiberglass cloth that collects and captures the chlorophyll.
Okay.
So we have our exact volume, and then we'll send this off to the lab, and then they'll do some light spectroscopy to be able to tell the concentration of the algae in that filter.
Now, J.K., if someone is intrigued by this and lives near a lake and may want to volunteer, how much of a time commitment is it?
We estimate that it's about a 2-hour commitment once a month. We ask that volunteers will sample at least once a month if they can. We ask that they try to give a year of their time if possible. And it, again, takes about 2 hours. It depends upon your vessel. If you're using a motorboat versus a kayak, it might take a little bit longer to collect your samples if you're doing a kayak. And it depends on the size of the lake as well.
Why would you encourage someone to consider doing this? What's the benefit?
The benefit is the data that you're collecting is going to live on in perpetuity, really. We're collecting this data long term. We have some lakes that have been collected for 30 years now. We have 30 years worth of data to be able to show the trends and the ups and downs in the data that we collect of that lake. And so if somebody wants to be able to donate their time to be able to get that data for us, it would last on forever, essentially.
And this data is valuable and important because ultimately we can use this to improve the health of our lakes, right?
That's correct. So
Yeah.
this data goes toward the county EPD program here in Orange County. It also goes toward the state EPD program. The data is available for everybody, and it's all housed within the Florida Lakes Atlas website. So anybody at any time could go check out some of their data that you can see if your lake's being monitored by Florida Lake Watch and see what that data looks like.
You know, JK, this is such a great opportunity for any of us really to get involved in being proactive with caring for the environment. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're very welcome, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, if you'd like to learn more about Florida Lake Watch, it's a great opportunity to get involved. And you heard JK say just about 2 hours a month, and you can be part of ensuring that our lakes and bodies of water here in Florida stay healthy.